Well, we have a great story that's just breaking, almost as much as that once tight circle of top Trump aides has been breaking apart lately. In this case, Jenna Ellis, and the incredible new development in her involvement in the 2020 Trump election scam that we're about to share with you in just a second. But first, a little backstory. It'll reinforce why today's big news is so important. Now, let's remember, Ellis was a one-time attorney for former President Donald Trump. She was also one of 18 co-defendants of Trump's who were charged in a sweeping case over the former president's campaign to reverse President Joe Biden's 2020 victory. You know, she's also been censured for making false statements over the 2020 election, including that the election was stolen from Trump. And as you know, and I know, those falsehoods were part of a sustained campaign by Trump allies that helped lead to January 6th, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Well, here's how it all started a few months back, and please pay attention to Katie Tur and her panel's supposition of Ellis's possible motivation for a clue about today's big story.
Jenna Ellis was very visible around the fake elector scheme, around Giuliani. I mean, all of her appearances were notable. She's been complaining on social media about legal fees. What can you tell us about what we know about Jenna Ellis, how she's paying for this, and Ryan, what might she consider if you were a prosecutor and you see her complaining? What might you do or try to get her to consider in light of this?
What's interesting about Jenna Ellis here is that she's switched politically. She's now sort of this Ron DeSantis supporter. So she's a little bit sort of out in the woods, I think, because, you know, you don't have the same base and ability to raise money that you would if you were sort of inside the Trump fold, or you don't have him paying your legal bills. So there is some exposure there. But it's also fascinating because then you have someone who basically, you know, fought for this idea that Donald Trump won the election, apparently really believed that at the time, at least, and now is in this position where they don't think Donald Trump should be elected again. So, you know, obviously a lot of this folds into the political, but she has certainly enough of a bullhorn on her own. She sort of hosts a show. I think that she might be able to raise money off of it, but I definitely think that she's someone you would want to be able to get sort of an in with. It might be someone who you could, you know, at least try to flip, but it doesn't seem necessarily incredibly likely there. Of course, you know, someone's going to have to break here, you would think, at some point, just given the legal and financial pressures that a lot of these defendants will be under, because obviously it's sort of, you know, the early bird gets the worm here in terms of whoever flips first is going to be someone who's going to get probably the better considerations when this case eventually goes around to getting to trial.
Just to get back to Ellis for a second, here's what she tweeted. I was reliably informed Trump isn't funding any of us who are indicted. Would this change if he becomes the nominee? Why then? Not now. I totally agree this has become a bigger principle than just one man. So why isn't MAGA Inc. funding everyone's defense? So Jenna Ellis, I'm going to keep an eye out on what happens with her.
And so we are keeping an eye out, Katie, and a lot happened with her today, as we're about to report from CNBC. As you'll see, Ms. Ellis has made a bold decision on the heels of this public act of contrition just a month or so ago.
Thank you, Your Honor, for the opportunity to address the court. As an attorney who is also a Christian, I take my responsibilities as a lawyer very seriously, and I endeavor to be a person of sound moral and ethical character in all of my dealings. In the wake of the 2020 presidential election, I believed that challenging the results on behalf of President Trump should be pursued in a just and legal way. I endeavored to represent my client to the best of my ability. I relied on others, including lawyers with many more years of experience than I, to provide me with true and reliable information, especially since my role involved speaking to the media and to legislators in various states. What I did not do, but should have done, Your Honor, was to make sure that the facts the other lawyers alleged to be true were in fact true. In the frenetic pace of attempting to raise challenges to the election in several states, including Georgia, I failed to do my due diligence. I believe in and I value election integrity. If I knew then what I know now, I would have declined to represent Donald Trump in these post-election challenges. I look back on this whole experience with deep remorse. For those failures of mine, Your Honor, I have taken responsibility already before the Colorado bar who censured me, and I now take responsibility before this court and apologize to the people of Georgia. Thank you.
And then thank you, Ms. Ellis, for sharing that all too often. I don't get to hear the perspective of the accused in these cases, and so that's appreciated.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And our big news for you, bad news for Trump is CNBC is reporting former Trump campaign attorney Jenna Ellis has agreed to cooperate with prosecutors in Arizona in their criminal cases against so-called fake electors. State Attorney General Chris Mays announced Monday. In exchange, prosecutors will drop criminal charges against Ellis. Ellis had been charged with 9 felonies, including fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. 17 other people remain charged in the case. This agreement represents a significant step forward in our case, Mays said in a statement. I am grateful to Ms. Ellis for her cooperation with our investigation and prosecution. Her insights are invaluable and will greatly aid the state in proving its case in court, the Attorney General said. As I stated when the initial charges were announced, I will not allow American democracy to be undermined. It is far too important. Today's announcement is a win for the rule of law. Well, one by one, the faithful fall away, and more the bloated, swollen object of their mesmerization is revealed for the pasty, model, cheater, liar, and thief that he is. And the more the Jenna Ellises of the Trump world heed their best interest, legally and morally, the more daylight shines on the decay of that colossal wreck.